If you've got one of these, then sooner or later you're going to need one of these. Yes, this is the modulation bar, because the modulation bars just flex on plastic and sooner or later it's going to break. So here is how to replace the mod bar. Okay, so here I'm going to try and see how easy it is to replace the mod bar. I've got this new mod bar here, direct from Roland supplier. So first I'm going to need to get the old one out, and there are a lot of screws on the Roland Ax Edge. I'm just going to use this one to take them out because it's magnetic. Worth noting that one there is slightly longer. Several of these are slightly longer. Worth remembering that when putting them back in. And I have to say there is a lot of them. I'm going to try and keep these separate so I know what went where. In actual fact, I'll stick those up the back there. And these ones go down the side. These ones along the front. Because they are quite clearly longer, these ones. I don't know how much movement I've got at the moment. Still got that one there. Goes there. Don't think that's enough to open it up yet. Got one down here. One down here. There's definite movement. Nothing obvious in there. So I'm thinking these ones do have to come off. These middle ones. Oh, hang on. Put that back in. So I'm not sure about those ones. Got one down here. I'm hoping I don't need to go any further than that. I want to take these caps off, so these little dials need to come off the end there. And now I can just about move that out the way, and we've got this where, so it's sitting just there. Now hopefully I can move that without damaging too much, or damaging anything preferably. So we've just got this section here that's been opened up now, and I need to get to the other side of this. So yet more, a huge number in actual fact of screws. They haven't made this the slightest bit easy, especially since it is a very vulnerable piece of equipment. This will break. Almost certain of it that you will at some point need to replace this part. Now this is obviously a metal cover for good reason. Got more down there. And kind of one of the reasons for videoing this is quite specifically so that if I get lost, I can watch the video and see exactly what I did. And this is curious because we have got literally a ridiculous number of screws. What of course will be interesting to see is whether there's anything else here that is actually serviceable. Doesn't look like it. This doesn't look like it's serviceable down this end, and these buttons don't look like they're serviceable. And the neck is actually quite weak. Yep, I've got to add a spider in here. So the neck is actually quite flimsy once you start pressing on it, which isn't a great scenario. Now, that is all the screws out. And you can see, no you can't because my head's in the way. If I take this out, what you will see is how bad this bit of plastic is. Because, literally, this thin bit of plastic here just breaks. Now the replacement doesn't have this metal pad on the bottom, so that's going to have to be swapped over as well. They are identical, so that's cool. And it looks like we've got a couple of rubbers there I need to move across as well. I'm going to have to find a much smaller screwdriver for that bit. Meantime, take these off. Get more screws. I'm going to leave those on those. So I'm going to leave that one like that for a minute. We've also got this spring that we have to watch out for. Okay. Just going to find myself a smaller screwdriver, so I'm going to come back to this. Okay, so I found a small screwdriver and was able to get this little plate out of the old broken unit. So now I can fit it. I've got these two rubbers go each end of the new one. I'll get them to go in. So put the rubbers in. Fit in nice and easily. I'm just going to take this protective wrapper off now. It's nice and shiny. Now I've just got to fit this plate back inside the new one. And the holes aren't really there, just about, so a little tricky to get them in. Okay, well, I did eventually get those two screws back in. It's quite tough going. Now that's got to be fitted back onto here. So it goes round that way, upside down sort of thing, and that's going to go through there into that plate hole. Sit back on there. As you can see, I've not done this before. The first one is probably slightly more difficult than the second one because everything moves around. Right, so getting that first one in place is helpful. Get that there. Get this one out to there. Well, this one to go through the hole first. There we go. I'm starting to get it somewhere now. So that's back onto there. This part obviously goes underneath there. Now this tricky bit is this spring. There we go. And this spring to sit back where it's supposed to be. That's going to be another tricky section. Now, I've got to sit through the top of that one, and then that's got to go on there. So I'm hoping you can get that to fit over there. Okay. Not so easy. Maybe I should have fitted that first. Well, it would be the wrong way around, wouldn't it? Genuinely a pain. Because it's just a clip, not a loop. There we go. That's the spring loaded bit. I'm not really sure what that spring's there for because it seems to be yeah, I can see the spring doing its bit, but it's really this bit of plastic here that is doing the flexing, which is why they break so easy. So that's the basic bit done. Haven't actually had to disconnect anything as such. So as long as everything is put back where it belongs, you should be in business. That sits back over the top of that. That goes into there like that. And then that should all sit merrily back in there. There we go, lovely. If I can just get these screws back in the place they came from, then I should be in business. So anyway, you saw me undoing all these screws. You don't really need to see me putting them all back in. But it's certainly worth keeping them in order so the right ones go back in the right slots. And that just makes sure that you don't have, because some of them are slightly longer than others, and it's just to make sure that you don't end up with the ones that are too short in the wrong slots. Now, I can see that that's popped out again, so I need to make sure that that is in the right place. That's where this one comes in handy. So that's going to screw that into its rightful place. And all these ones are all the same length, so I don't have to worry about them being Just it is very fiddly to get these in the right places. Now with that screwed back in, that will keep that from falling out of place. So let's take that one back out. What I need to know now is where this is going. So that takes those two, that one and that one. Right. So there are no other spare ones floating around there, except that one there. That's got to go back in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this should all be visible now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They are. Excellent. Okay, so that one doesn't belong there because that is an outside one. That's an outside one, that's an outside one. Outside ones, that's an outside one, that's an outside one. And not sure whether you should use a magnetic screwdriver on this sort of thing, but it certainly makes it a lot easier to get quite a few of these screws in to use a screwdriver that's magnetic. And of course, if you haven't got one of those, there's an old product called Blue Tack. And you can put a little bit of blue tack on the end of your screwdriver and then use that with the screw. That will hold the screw in place long enough for it to get put back into its respective hole. Okay, so those are all back in place. There's nothing else that needs to go inside. I just need to position this back where I think it should be and just double check that everything is sitting right, and it looks like it is. Now, I don't think any cables came undone. Not sure that there were any obvious cables to come undone. There is one that sits on the back of the keyboard panel, but if you keep it as close as I did, you should be in a situation where it shouldn't actually come apart. But it's worth just keeping an eye on the fact that that one does exist. So it's just a case of making sure it all goes back together nicely. Here, these will eventually go back in there, and I just want to find the two longer ones, because if I look down here, the two longer ones are on this end here. That longer one, yeah, so I've got three longer ones, and all these ones, because these have got the longer panels. So although that's taken quite a lot of screws to get in and out, it actually wasn't too bad to do. Obviously the proof is in the pudding, so to speak, so we'll find out in a minute whether this has done the job or not. but it seems to be working fine from point of view of being usable from there. I'll just need to get these back on. And of course it's useful, like I've done here, to keep them all separate so I know which one goes where, because they are different length screws. Now I have to say, when I ordered up the spare part, I did wonder whether I'd get round to doing it, because it was quite a nervy idea to take something that is so expensive apart just to put in the piece of plastic. And I did seriously wonder whether it was worth just leaving it broken just so as not to damage the rest of the machine. Although I suppose I could have sent it into the dealership to get it fixed. On that note, I have to say that I got 2 of these in because I wanted to keep one in the spare, because I was worried about the time scale that it would take to actually get the part. But fair's fair to Roland. Actually getting hold of the part is quite easy. Now these dials are actually identical, so it doesn't matter which one goes back in which, but they are angled. There is a flat side to them, so when you put them back in, they will automatically be the right way round. They won't, no lining up to do. And that's it, and we'll now find out whether that actually worked or not. If you enjoyed this video, do give us a thumbs up and click on that subscribe button. Oh, and by the way, yes, the new mod bar works perfectly.